election update.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our continuing coverage of the 2020 Illinois primary. All of the polls are closing right now. There were 40 polling places in suburban Cook County and also 5 in Chicago that were allowed to stay open for 1 extra hour tonight.
So we want to bring you up to date on the latest results and the hot races around the area. The hottest of them all, the race for U.S. President. Former Vice President Joe Biden has been surging in recent weeks as Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders looks to keep his nomination hopes alive. 2
other states, Arizona and also Florida, are holding their votes this evening. A 4th, Ohio, as you may know, was supposed to vote today, but the state's governor there took the drastic step of delaying the primary in Ohio. Let's toss it over to our Judy Sue, who's been tracking the results all evening long, and we have some projected winners tonight, don't we, Judy?
Yeah, hey guys, even though some polling places stayed open until 8 o'clock tonight, there is a projected winner here in Illinois, and that is former Vice President Joe Biden tonight. You can take a look at the results that we have in so far. 57% Joe Biden to Bernie Sanders 38%. I know it is only with 10% of the precincts reporting, but Joe Biden is the projected winner here tonight in Illinois. As you all know, so much talk about these being extraordinary times, and these are the first primaries to be held with the uncertainty of the COVID-19 pandemic. There were many questions going into today's elections, and now we're seeing these results coming in. Illinois set to be the second largest prize in terms of delegates tonight, with 155 delegates at stake. Again, Joe Biden, the projected winner here in Illinois tonight. We do also want to show you, though, the results on the Republican side. There was another candidate on the ticket besides President Trump. ABC News tonight projecting the president will win officially in Illinois, and that gives him enough delegates to be the Republican nominee. And there you see the returns here tonight. Now we're going to move on to the biggest delegate prize of the night, and that is Florida, with 219 delegates at stake. It did not take long for this primary to be called tonight. Former Vice President Joe Biden winning by a very large margin there, 85% reporting, 62% Biden to Bernie Sanders, 23% tonight. Florida traditionally has a high early voting population and those who vote by mail as well. So those tabulation came in rather early tonight. And in Arizona, their polls will be closing at 9 p.m. our time here in Chicago. So we'll be tracking those numbers for you as the evening continues. Biden was tracking ahead in the polls by a wide margin in Arizona. The other big challenge for both campaigns leading into tonight, as you can imagine, is COVID-19. Both campaigns had to cancel some events, and tonight Joe Biden is scheduled to speak to his supporters from Wilmington, Delaware, and that speech will be live streamed and also via live stream to his supporters. This happened around 6:30 our time tonight, saying very little actually about the primaries today, and said focusing a lot more on the steps the federal government needs to take to protect Americans, he says, during the COVID-19 pandemic. So again, Illinois, Florida going to Joe Biden tonight. We are still waiting for Arizona. Tonight's results, of course, moving that delegate count. Here is where things stand tonight. Joe Biden has 899. Bernie Sanders has 706. Keep the magic number in mind, which is 1991, to clinch the nomination. Alan and Cheryl, back to you.
All right, Judy, thanks so much for that look at the national scope. COVID-19 concerns certainly have most campaigns changing their election night plans. That includes the candidates you see right there who are vying to become the next Cook County State's Attorney. The incumbent, Kim Foxx, on the right there, facing off against 3 Democratic challengers. Let's take a look at the results as they're coming in so far. I want you to note, however, we've got only 13% of the vote in right now, but the incumbent, Kim Foxx, at 52% of that vote at the moment, so she is certainly in the lead. And in second place has been the person who has been certainly a contender, and this is an incredible race in terms of the amount of money that was spent. The candidates that I'm talking about, all of them now in total, 4 of them on the Democratic side, spending more than $16 million in terms of bringing it in on their campaign. Now let's look over on the Republican side. We have 2 candidates here, Christopher Fawn Cook and also Pat O'Brien. Pat O'Brien, a longtime county prosecutor, judge, and assistant attorney general. He's in the lead right now over Christopher Fawn Cook, who is a former prosecutor himself. You might recall that he actually lost to Kim Foxx back in 2016. Our ABC 7 political reporter Craig Wall joining us live now at Hotel Essex, just across from Grant Park. That's where Kim Foxx is expected to speak about these results this evening. Hi, Craig.
Hey, Alan, as you mentioned, we're live here. She is up on the 5th floor. That's where the campaign has set up its event upstairs. We're expecting to hear from her once the results become clear enough about who is going to win in this race. At this point, though, no time yet set for her to speak. This race, which was once dominated by conversation about the Jussie Smollett case, now, like the rest of the political landscape, completely overshadowed by concerns about the novel coronavirus. The calls for social distancing having a major impact on this election. The party that Fox had planned for tonight has been scaled back to just include her family, some staff, and the media covering this race. She had no media availability today, but instead released an election day video asking people to be safe and get out to vote. Other candidates have also canceled their plans for parties tonight. As you mentioned, this has been a very, very expensive race. Challenger and political newcomer, as well as former Assistant State's Attorney Bill Conway, has been funded mainly by his billionaire father, who has pumped more than $10 million into the campaign. That has allowed Conway to flood the airwaves with all kinds of attack ads against Kim Foxx for her handling of the Jussie Smollett case. Foxx has the backing, of course, of the Cook County Democratic Party, as well as the rest of the machine, if you will. The governor, Illinois senators, all getting behind her. She has campaigned on her efforts to focus prosecutions on violent crime as well as criminal justice reform. Two other candidates in this race, as you mentioned at the beginning, former Assistant Cook County State's Attorney Donna Moore and former Alderman Bob Fioretti. Again, all the focus of this election has been on social distancing. It'll be very interesting to see how that has impacted turnout. Low turnout oftentimes does favor the incumbents, but under these extraordinary circumstances that we're holding an election, all bets are off. We hope to know soon, though.
Definitely a race that everyone will be watching tonight. Of course, thank you, Craig, for that. Now, one of the most watched congressional races in this country is in the 3rd District in Illinois, which includes parts of Chicago's southwest side, along with the southwest and western suburbs. Incumbent Dan Lipinski facing challengers tonight, 3 other Democrats. Of course, we can take a look now at some of the results that are in early. Right now, Dan Lipinski with 11% of the reporting in, with 51% of the vote. Then Marie Newman, of course, this is her second time running for this office, with 2,702 votes. And then Rush Darwish is 3rd place at this hour. Now to the 3 other candidates in the Republican side, including the neo-Nazi Arthur Jones. Let's take a look at the results with 11% reporting at this hour. Mike Frisolone, 46% of the vote. Catherine O'Shea with 42%, kind of close there at this hour, though. It's still early, 11% reporting. And then Art Jones is rounding up the bottom third with 11% of the vote.
Take a look at another congressional district here this evening. It's Illinois' 14th district. It really covers portions of 7 different counties, predominantly west, southwest suburban, and also northwest suburban as well. Got a total of 7 Republicans on the ballot today for this race, and all of them are hoping a chance to challenge this person. This is the first-term Democrat, Lauren Underwood, in the fall. You may recall that Underwood won what had been a GOP seat back in 2018 when she beat Randy Hultgren. Here's how that race is coming in this evening. Again, 43% of the vote reporting at this time. Jim Oberweis, a familiar name in Chicago area politics, the dairy company owner, ran for governor himself and also the U.S. Senate too. He is at the top of the leading pack right now, 26%, but it's rather close between the top 3 right now. The second person, a relative newcomer, Catalina Lauf. She is a daughter of Guatemalan immigrants, 26 years old, actually a former Commerce Department advisor within the Trump administration. And finally, coming in third at this point this evening is a state lawmaker, Illinois Senator Sue Rezin, who's been a lawmaker since 2010. So we're watching that rather close race out in the 14th district this evening.
Now let's go to the 6th district, where another first-term Democrat, Sean Canston, will be trying to hold on to his seat come November. The 6th district, covering some of Chicago's west and northwestern suburbs, battling it out in the Republican primary for a chance to face him or former state representative Jeannie Ives and transplant surgeon Jay Kinsler. So let's take a look at these votes at this hour. We have 68% of the votes going to Jeannie Ives, with 17% of the precincts reporting at this hour, and Jay Kinsler getting 32% of the votes.
This election, of course, this evening is taking place, all of this under the cloud of this COVID-19 pandemic.
In fact, Chicago's election officials and Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker got into a very public spat over whether today's primary should have been delayed. Investigative reporter Chuck Yowdy joining us tonight with the latest on that part of the story. Chuck.
Hi, Cheryl. Really an incredible verbal assault today between Governor Pritzker and the top spokesman for the Chicago Election Authority, and it all concerned whether or not this election today should even have been held. All of this began this morning when the spokesman for the Chicago Board of Elections said that more than a week ago they were talking with the governor's office about bringing to an end today's election.
Instead of accepting help or offering any solutions of their own, the Chicago Board of Elections decided to wait until Election Day to call the press and attempt to shift the blame for their failings.
Governor Pritzker this afternoon with the last words on TV after a piercing attack by a top official at the Chicago Board of Elections.
At that time, we predicted that there would be fear among voters, legitimate concerns among our poll workers.
The Chicago Election Authority didn't want this to happen today. As COVID-19 cases mushroom, the city wanted no open voting, and a week ago asked the governor to delay and replace regular voting with ballots by mail, something Pritzker says he's not legally entitled to do.
It is exactly in times like these when the constitutional boundaries of our democracy should be respected above all else. And if people want to criticize me for that, well, go ahead. I'll wear it like a badge of honor.
And so today, Chicago election officials say they did the best they could, arming precinct volunteers with what the I-Team saw at city polling places, small bottles of hand sanitizer and an inadequate supply of cleansing wipes.
You can't wipe every table, I can't wipe every polling place, and you can't wipe every pen every time with this stuff. I'd been out of it already.
I would call conducting an election in the midst of a global pandemic where people are afraid to show up to a polling place a curse.
A few hours later, Jim Allen from the Election Board did apologize for the tone of his comments, but certainly not for the substance. And all of this played out in real time today here as voters were at the polling places and as authorities, including the governor, were still trying to get their arms around the COVID-19 outbreak. Cheryl, Alan?
All right, Chuck, thanks so much. Quite an unusual election day we're experiencing, that is for sure. We're going to take a short break from our election coverage. I want to remind you, you can find the results from all the races we're talking about, in fact, all across Illinois, on our website, abc7chicago.com.
And we will be back at 9 o'clock with an update and analysis from Sun-Times columnist, ABC7 political analyst, Laura Washington. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you then.